How should you eat to optimize muscle growth? We just published a scientific review article titled "The Muscle Protein Synthetic Response to Meal Ingestion Following Resistance Type Exercise" that describes this in detail, and in this video we'll give you the breakdown. So in this video we're going to answer the question, how much protein should you consume in one meal? So what is muscle protein synthesis? You can imagine your muscle as a wall, and your goal is to grow this wall. You do that by adding bricks to the wall. So in this case, we would like to add proteins to your muscle, and that happens in a process called muscle protein synthesis. However, at the same time, there are also bricks that are being removed from the wall by a process called muscle protein breakdown. So muscle protein breakdown sounds very bad because it goes against your goal of growing that wall. However, it is an essential process. If you have a wall that has a lot of weak spots, you're not comfortable building that wall bigger and bigger because the whole thing might come down. It's the same with muscle tissue. You don't want damaged proteins in there. You want to remove these and then rebuild a stronger, better wall. So muscle protein breakdown is not really an enemy that needs to be avoided at all costs, but your goal as an athlete is to stimulate muscle protein synthesis as much as possible to either grow the wall or build the wall as strong as possible. So the first study that investigated on how much protein you should eat in a meal was by Moore et al. And what they did was they recruited healthy males to their laboratory. These did a session of lower body exercise, after which the subjects were divided in groups where they got either 0, 5, 10, 20 or 40 grams of protein. And in this case it was an egg protein supplement. After the supplement, muscle protein synthesis was measured over a 4-hour period. Here we see the results, and as little as 5 grams of protein already stimulated muscle protein synthesis. However, there was a linear increase in muscle protein synthesis up to the dose of 20 grams of protein. And therefore, it's often said that 20 grams of protein is the optimal amount. Doubling the amount of protein to 40 grams only had a very minor benefit that was not statistically significant, but it appeared it was about 10% higher in muscle protein synthesis. Then a follow-up study was done, very similar design. So subjects performed a session of lower body exercise, and they got different amounts of protein after the exercise. In this case, it was whey protein supplements. But there were a few important differences. So the first one was that in this study, subjects got a big protein-rich breakfast a couple of hours before the study. So maybe if you have eaten in the hours before exercise, you don't need as much protein after exercise. Another difference was that in this study, subjects performed lower body exercise with just one leg. So one leg did exercise and the other leg was at rest. And this was done because maybe the amount of protein you need after exercise depends on whether you exercised or not. Maybe a leg that has exercised needs to repair more muscle damage, for example, and therefore needs more protein. So here we see the results of the study again. And the first thing that you notice is that the black bars are consistently higher than the white bars. So this shows that the exercise leg had higher muscle protein synthesis rates. And that's, of course, exactly what you expect. Exercise stimulates muscle growth. Again, you see more or less a linear increase in muscle protein synthesis rates with protein up to the 20 gram of protein dose. And doubling the protein amount to 40 grams again had no significant benefit over the 20 grams, although it again exactly appeared to be a 10% further increase. So that's very consistent with the previous study. So there's one more study I want to discuss. Very similar design again. Subjects got a protein-rich breakfast in the morning. Then they performed an exercise bout, again lower body exercise, after which they got either 20 grams or 40 grams of whey protein. But the main difference in this study was that the subjects also performed upper body exercise. So it was a whole body exercise routine. And the results here were a little bit different. In this case, the 40 grams of protein resulted in a significant higher muscle protein synthesis rates compared to the 20 grams of protein. And the difference was 20% instead of the 10% we saw in the previous studies. So this may suggest that if you do a whole body routine, that you need a little bit more protein to optimize muscle protein synthesis rates. However, in this case, we're comparing data between different studies, so we have to be a little bit careful with that. So it's not very clear that if you train more muscle mass per session that you need more, but despite all that, you see very consistently that the 40 grams appears to be a little bit better than 20 across all conditions. And that's what we summarized in our articles. This is a figure from the article. 20 grams of fast digesting high quality protein is very effective at stimulating muscle protein synthesis, and you probably get most bang for your buck with a 20 gram amount. However, if you really want to optimize your gains, you're probably better off with 40 grams of protein, which gives you about a 10 to 20% higher muscle protein synthetic rate. Now, these studies are of course not perfect and they don't hold true for all conditions. For example, in all these three studies, they used animal-based protein, they used protein supplements, and they measured muscle protein synthesis in the 4 to 5 hours after exercise. But what would happen if they had used plant protein? Is that even effective? Maybe it's much more effective. Do you need more or less to optimize muscle protein synthesis? Or what would have happened had they given the subjects real food, so chicken, or chicken with potatoes and vegetables? Or what would happen if they measured muscle protein synthesis over a longer period? Maybe the 20 to 40 grams of protein is enough to optimize muscle protein synthesis over a short period, but maybe you need much more protein to keep muscle protein synthesis elevated longer. So these are just a few potential limitations and a few conditions that may be different in the real world. In our review, we discuss these factors and a bunch more. So put the link in the description below. Check it out. It's accessible for everyone. If you don't like to read science papers, we'll probably make a few follow-up videos on this after this video if people seem to like it. And in the meantime, summary would be 20 grams of protein is a very effective dose. For those who want to maximize gains, you probably want to go higher, up to 40 grams of protein, but still keep in mind this doesn't necessarily translate to all situations. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.